Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben here with Dylan and Brian to talk about episode number 12 of Survivor 47. And we have I think a lot to talk about in this episode. It's a really fun episode. Operation Italy. There was a lot of speculation on what that could possibly mean. A lot of people delving into the depths of history to try to determine the Italian cultural relevance within the world wars. To try to piece out what Operation Italy could possibly mean. It turns out just meant they ate a bunch of Italian food.
Yeah, it's very straightforward. Unlike the layered Rome voting confessional in German, this is just a straightforward one. Though I guess it had a little undertones of a mob hit here. So there was that. That was fun. This is a big night for you, Dylan, I feel like, because Andy was really a star.
Yeah. Andy, I'm trying to think of, we talked about it yesterday.
Getting choked up over it.
I think this is what we needed Andy to do. It was great. Very satisfactory, having it pay off. I still find his path to winning very, very complicated, but I am not ruling it out. Same thing I'm doing with Notre Dame this year. I completely ruled them out at the very beginning when they lost to Northern Illinois. And then now I'm talking myself into them winning a national championship for the first time since 1988, which is basically the same thing I'm doing with Andy. So I've had my heart broken many times before, and so I'm trying not to build it up. But man, what a spicy episode for our boy Andy. And what a sad episode for my girl or my teeny. Just not great. But my main focus is Andy. This was awesome. I'm back on liking Genevieve a lot because I think Genevieve really cooked this episode as well. Really served, if you will. And I've never not liked Sam. I just thought Sam was completely dead in the water. I mean, he still might honestly be, but I'm all in that trio. I'm all out on that bully alliance we got going on over there. I'm glad that we chopped probably the most innocent, nicest person in that alliance completely out. But Carolyn, honestly, probably had the most level head to herself out of anybody else in terms of the move she was making and what she wanted to do. So it did make a lot of sense cutting her out. I think getting Rachel would have been really, really sweet. But what a great episode. I'm trying to think because I feel like I got to sit back and think about it. I don't know if it was the best episode of New Era, but I can't name one off the top of my head that's better. So maybe it was. But in terms of hearing that before the episode, I think it still lived up to the hype, which is good.
Yeah. I wish that it wasn't hyped up so that this was a surprise. Because it was hyped up, it was clearly this plan will go through in some form. If it hadn't been, I think there would have been a little bit more intrigue. So please, if you get screeners, don't do that anymore. Don't spoil it in any way. It's kind of I don't know, if you're a big sports fan and you miss a big game and someone knows you're a big fan of this team, and I won't say anything, but you're going to be happy. You're going to be happy. It's well, great. Thank you.
Now I know that
I'm going to be happy. Yeah, but I've had that happen to me a few times in my life where it's that is just spoiling it without spoiling it. But I feel like this is a great episode. Best of the New Era. I guess we'll have to go back and watch all the New Era episodes. I'm not quite there in my rewatch. I've watched every season more than once, up to 38. The other ones I have to,
fair. It's a fair place to stop.
Yeah.
I don't ever really see myself going back to rewatch any seasons of the New Era, to be 100% honest with you. Maybe this season, depending on how we end it, but
yeah. I think I think the most interesting one to rewatch would be 43 with the knowledge that Gabler won, and to see if this mythical winners edit that everyone tried to I feel like gaslight everyone into saying existed actually was there.
Yeah, if Gabler's on season 50, I'll rewatch it. But if not, might let sleeping dogs lie. I don't want to do that to myself again necessarily.
A better winner than he gets credit for. He's He's the second best winner of the new era. Dare I said it? Who's the first?
I don't know.
I don't know if I'd agree with that, but okay.
Yeah.
I still think D is the best winner of the new era. That's
I think that's pretty universally.
Yeah. Pretty easy slam dunk.
I don't know how many people are going to fight you on that one.
And then I pull out the Uzi. Gabler's second.
It is a hot take. Off-season podcast territory for sure.
Yeah, maybe between 49 and 50. I'm sure, especially with all of the hype coming to 50, we'll probably do maybe we'll do like one or two recap of the new era podcasts.
If Andy somehow managed to win this season now after this move, would you consider him obviously the best new era player, but would you consider him like up there in terms of the best players ever? If he somehow managed to finesse his way from here, moving on out to winning this season. If you think about where he was at the beginning to winning this season.
If he's like a strategic force in the way that he was this episode for the rest of the season, maybe. Well, we'd have to see him be that.
Yeah, I think the issue is like with the way the game is currently set up, with Rachel winning this immunity and not being the recipient of this blindside, it's very hard to see a situation where we have both Sue and Rachel that have idols. Rachel still has a block of vote, and we're going into a final six where all three of Teeny, Sue, and Rachel just kind of got scorned by this this actual underdog kind of contingency. And it's not just a bunch of people who consider themselves losers who got together in a majority alliance, because that's not really the definition of underdog. It's definitely a far cry from like the leftover alliance in BB 2024. Who actually were a lot closer to an underdog alliance that came together. It's very hard for me to like not see how one of Andy, Sam, or Genevieve doesn't just go out at 6 and probably also at 5. So for any of the three of them to win from this point, they basically have to be the one of them that is in the final 4, and then either win immunity or win fire, and then just be like respected on the jury for pulling off this move. And like people like Sue, Rachel, and Teeny are just less respected. But I think right now the most likely outcome is just going to be that Sue, Teeny, and Rachel are the final 3, and that Rachel wins. Like we've been edit reading for so many weeks now that Rachel is the winner, and we've been trying to like piece together how the fuck that happens, because it doesn't really narratively make sense throughout the rest of the season and like looking at Rachel as a player. But like this kind of paints the picture for me as to how she wins.
Yeah, and I think it was great that this happened this week, because I do think we were potentially set up for like a very, very boring 2-part finale, which sucks. Which I think there's still a high chance we do get, especially, I don't know if you watched the preview for next week. They do set it up, where Teeny, the little snake that they are, is completely flipping and in survival mode, as she has been this entire season. There could be some stuff there, but like you said, I don't see a scenario where it's borderline. It would have to be one of the worst misjudgments and fumbles of all time if Rachel or Sue go home next week. So it obviously, in turn, it would have to be one of the 3 from tonight, one of the Italian 3 from tonight, or Teeny.
Yeah. It would have to be a complete blindside to like make them not play their idol.
Which I think after this one, no chance that they're going to be like not on edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Andy wins immunity next week, I might get Andy's name tattooed on me.
On your front, like Woody.
If he wins immunity next week for the very first time all season, and advantage idol Mageddon happens, part 2, that happens, and everybody's without their idol, the advantages are all gone, all that, and Sam or Genevieve are gone. Which, by the way, it seems like somehow Rachel has more of a grudge against Genevieve than Teeny does now, which is also why I'm just like kind of completely just out on Teeny. Then we're obviously down to Andy having like it's anybody's game at that point, I feel like. But my only hope is that what we saw at the end of this episode which the jury's seemingly immediately recognizing this was Andy's move, that Andy was the key factor to it. So I don't know. Depending on what the challenge is next week, that would be monumental. That'd be crazy if Andy's able to pull that off.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think so. I definitely want to like come on here and not. I know, like me being me, like I'm someone who like tries to like think through the strat. Obviously, I mean that's the whole point of this podcast. And like in our group chat, we had kind of like before Tribal had come to the decision. I was like, this is going to be fun, but ultimately not, a winning move in any way, just because of that. So I'm going to try to not be like down on the move, just because the future will probably not be kind to it, and try to like treat it like in the moment. This is really fun for an episode of Survivor, kind of similar to Malcolm double idol play in Caramoan, where it's like long term not a good move. I mean,
well, I'll stand by. I think the move was good. I think the move was good for all three of them, even for Andy. I think that this is Andy playing
right. Yeah.
To win.
No, yeah. I'm trying not to be results. Yeah.
This was.
I don't see.
There's going to be a lot of people being results oriented though. If Andy loses.
There, as I've learned in recent years, as I've become more engrossed in Survivor and the Survivor community and reading what they have to say, I would say like 90% of the Survivor people that post on Twitter and on Reddit are the most delusional pieces of shit I've ever like encountered on the internet. And there's a lot of people that are very upset about the move last night of Andy and like being like, oh, this is basically just like someone chucking up a Hail Mary and you're down like 30. You know what I mean? Like, I don't agree.
He was headed into a final
exactly.
Council 0 win equity.
Yeah,
which was at best. Yeah. His best case scenario was losing at final council. His most likely scenario was going out at 5.
This is the move that I said that Teeny would have to make. This move we said 2 weeks ago and last week, the move that Andy had to make. And one of these people made the move this week, and the other one was complaining that they weren't more open to being able to be flipped at the Italian at Olive Garden going on at the sanctuary. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with those two players. Yeah, literally, like, what do you want? There's no other move for Andy than to try to do something here. I would have lost so much respect if he bailed, which at a certain point I did think maybe would it be smarter for him to bail. But what you just said, no, because then at this point you're getting dragged along. You're probably getting voted out in the next two tribals. This was great. It clearly drew a line in the sand between these three and the three that are left. Right? Is there 6 left or 7 left? 6 left. So I think that first part of the finale, which is why I really wonder if this is why they split up the finales into these 2 2-hour parts. I think they're going to really, really, really milk and drag out this whole 3 versus 3 that we have going on. And then my gut tells me that the actual finale itself is going to be a real snooze fest. It's going to be very, very clear that Rachel's winning, which I'm like lukewarm on Rachel. Ben, I know you think that she would be a bad winner, and I would probably agree with you for the most part, but I don't know. There's something about this episode specifically that I just became really, really sour, specifically on Teeny, but also kind of on Rachel too, where there's almost like this sense of entitlement now, and it really doesn't help too that Rachel has essentially been gifted 2 lifelines in this game for her to feel like that. It's incredibly frustrating. It's very, very frustrating to see that, which is why I'm probably actively rooting against. I mean, if Sue wins this season, literally, I might be done with the pod. I might be done with everything. Because her any like, I don't know. People brought up once they clearly saw that Genevieve wasn't playing, and this is once again so much easier in hindsight to say this. Once you saw that Genevieve was not playing an idol, the fact that you're not willing to play an idol for yourself or for your closest ally, who just sits like your daughter, who has been like apparently put on the chopping block.
That's a self-proclaimed title. In fairness,
yeah,
Sue never said that.
Did you see the meme that was like of Missy and Baylor? That's like this is what Caroline wants the parents to be. Yeah. So this is the move Andy had to make. This is the fight that I'm really happy that Sam and Genevieve were putting forward. And I'm kind of really glad to see egg on Teeny's face because I've vented my frustrations about her. I like Teeny for the most part this entire season. I've been kind of begging for her to be the one to make this move. And when she kind of just completely threw that hissy fit about not being taken. And it's one thing, it's almost completely different than what we got last year about the whole Applebee's incident and what's her name just completely losing it. I think that's a whole different perspective to this. This is where I saw like maybe some frustrations out of Teeny, but also like it was straight up just turned into like a bully out of nowhere. I don't know where that came from her. I think that she's kind of, it's almost like she wanted to be taken to that so she could flip. It's like she wanted to be able to have the ability to flip, which is like, once again, you can somehow drive forward these moves if you put the initiative forward. But Teeny has been so content being in the back seat this entire season, while also saying like, "Oh, I want to be the one to drive," and she's never been the one to put her foot forward, which is why I'm just completely out on Teeny. I think that she'd be a very, very disappointing winner unless she really, really puts the pedal to the metal and starts scheming these next 2 episodes. I think she would be another really, really disappointing winner. I just really hope, I really, really hope that we don't get down to a Teeny, Sue, Rachel final tribal, because I think that would be the ultimate, like, okay, like checking the clock every time to see when this episode's over. So that's where I'm at between 3 and you. I saw, you know how down on Genevieve we've been, specifically me recently. I'm kind of back up there, but it all revolves around Andy. He's my Notre Dame. I think he might win this. I really hope.
Yeah, I mean, barring a miracle, I think you're gonna be checking the clock come 10:30 on finale night. But I'm not as hard as TD. I think it's funny that this happened, that TD was like so mad at Sam over this, but I don't necessarily hold it against Teeny in the way that I feel like some people online have been like harsh. Like I thought it was funny.
That whole scene, especially with Teeny, was like, oh, this plan is 100% working. That was the point for me where I was like, there's no way this plan doesn't work, because they're just setting up this like under like the 4 of them to like they're like forcing you to root against them. They're like showing you all of the most obnoxious material possible on those 4, and you're like, okay, they would not be like going like this hard to make us be like pissed off at people like Sue and Teeny if this plan did not work. So like that to me was like, I get why they did it. To me, I was like, okay, but let's get all of the footage possible of these 4 being like as obnoxious and unrootable as we can, just so we can like fully 110% sell this move and make everyone like really happy it happened.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think to your point, Ben, like, well, yeah, what do the people want here? Like, this is all we ask for from players.
Yeah.
It's like, just don't lie down and take it.
Yep.
Like, fight, do something, make a move. Like, we were hard on Katora a few seasons ago for not doing anything. Yep. I'm not going to be hard on Andy now for doing something, even if it's not going to work out so that he wins. It's still like a good move in the moment.
This raised his win equity. I think anybody who says it didn't raise his win equity is like doesn't understand how the game works. This took him from like borderline 0 win equity to like maybe like a 20% chance to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think, like I said, I think that's part of my frustrations with Teeny, is because this is what I've wanted from her. I think at one point early in the season, I said that I thought she was my favorite to win. I think that's kind of where the frustrations come from too, because it's like you've had several opportunities where you could have done this and you just really didn't put the initiative forward, and then you basically just complained about not doing what you could have done. So I think that's kind of where my breaking point is at with Teeny, where it's just like, I've been rooting for you this whole time. I've been begging for you to do something and you're not doing it. And the other person that I have been rooting for is doing it, and he's on the opposite side of you. So now I'm all in on Andy.
Yeah. I think we talk about it a lot on this show. Like, as a player, your whole point being out there at all, leaving your job, your family, everything to go out there, is to win $1 million. Like, try to win $1 million. Always be like thinking like, is this a better position for me? Am I going to go far and lose? Or like, can I, we've said it so many times. I don't want to sound like a broken record to the people who've listened to it, but it's like you'd much rather go down swinging.
Mhm.
Like you have to go down swinging. You can't let the pitch go by you, and get to final tribal council and not have anything to argue with. Like, what's the point? Why'd you come out here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And also, maybe it's just me? Didn't it feel like all of a sudden the piling on Sam came out of nowhere in this episode? Like I for the most part, it just seemed like Sam was kind of there. I guess I sort of understand Rachel's frustrations with him, but other than that, like the whole thing with Teeny kind of came out of nowhere, and also like Teeny literally, 3 scenes before that was finally like started to tell Genevieve off, which I also thought that's kind of when we saw the early signs of how Teeny was gonna react to things in this episode. Like I thought it was very, very clear. Genevieve was your number one enemy on this island, and Genevieve was your one to get up. And then all of a sudden, because once again, only 3 people can go out of 7, you're just gonna get mad at him for not picking you. I think that's just I don't know. I mean, the whole Sam things seemed like maybe it was the edit. Maybe the edit just strictly focused on her attacking Sam, which is very possibly the case. But that seemed very weird for me. And like I've been saying, my hope was that her big move was to get Genevieve. That would have been very, very satisfying to the story that had been laid out so far this season, where all of a sudden it's just like Sam. It's like, have you talked to Sam?
Yeah, I think Rachel does have, a legitimate gripe with Sam, given that like Rachel like held an olive branch out to Sam when she didn't have to, and in a position where Sam had previously kind of screwed her over. And so like there was no reason for her to do that. And that was like, I'm very critical of Rachel's game. I think that was a bad move from Rachel. And it's kind of an unforced error. And within like 30 seconds flat, Sam completely betrayed her and like threw her under the bus and blew up her game. And I definitely think that Rachel has a legitimate gripe with Sam, but I don't really know where it comes from Teeny.
Was that the Saul thing?
Yeah,
Saul thing.
Yeah, no, agreed. Rachel's tried with him, and now she's done with him. That's fair. Totally fair on her part. I would also probably be done with him in her, position.
Yep.
Where it's like, why would you do this to me?
Like of the 4 of them, Rachel has the biggest gripe with both Genevieve and Sam.
Right.
So like from her, it makes sense, and like the underdog's line, like as we said before, benefited Rachel the most, like keeping that system intact. She's still probably in the best spot even now because of her idol and air advantage. But even if she didn't have the idol and the advantage, if this move hadn't happened, the like way the structure was set up was benefiting her. So like both from like a personal perspective and from like a strategic perspective, like it makes the most sense for Rachel.
I've already essentially, unless she loses that fire, I've already just assumed she's there at Final Tribal no matter what.
But yeah, I mean, she has a really OP power that she has to use next round, and she has an idol, she has 2 people who it makes no sense at all for Teeny and Sue to not just go to the end with Rachel, because at least against Rachel they could argue that she's made a bunch of mistakes and that she's kind of only got here from a series of lucky breaks. Whereas they have literally no argument after this move against any of Andy, Sam, and Genevieve.
Yeah, no, agree. It's in she's in such a good spot now because she has 2 people who it's like you can argue Genevieve and Andy could win at the end and can just easily position as a shield.
Mm-hmm.
Can just easily be like, guys, we can't, break up our trio now. Like Genevieve will win or Andy will win. We have to get to the end without. It's like Spencer for Tony. Where Tony was able to do a lot of stuff at the end of the game because he was keeping Spencer around as we can't let Spencer get to the end, and it just completely took the target off of him. One of the greatest, strategies that he employed, and then he ramped it up on Winners at War with the Lions and Hyenas version of it.
Outside of Tyson and Blood versus Water 1, right? That is my most dominant win ever.
Tony in his first season. It's so weird to like look back on it, because like in the moment, like while watching that season, it's like there's no way this lunatic is gonna pull this off.
Yeah.
Like he's just doing all this crazy shit for no reason. He can't land this plane, and then he did. He's a unicorn.
That's what got me back into Survivor. It's when that season dropped on Netflix.
Yeah.
That's what reeled me in. I think I literally texted you one night. I might have had a few too many. I was sitting on the couch and I was like, "Hey, Brian, Survivor," and I threw it on, and I loved it. I watched like 4 episodes
that was smart for them to put that season on.
Yeah, no, I mean Netflix for both Big Brother and Survivor has done a very good job of picking seasons. I don't know who's the one who picking the seasons, whether it's the like show or whether it's the network or the Netflix or I don't know who's in charge. Whoever's in charge does a good job.
Yeah, I'm sure there's at least a few people at Netflix who are Survivor fans who are like, we should get these seasons.
Yeah.
Like make CBS give us David versus Goliath and Kagayan. Kagayan. Jeez, I don't know why I said it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's so like I think Rachel's just in a good spot. I just can't see Rachel not winning. I guess like if I'm trying to argue that this move will, bear fruit for the players who made it past this, maybe you can say like Teeny is a player who's like a little unsure of what their end game is going to be. So maybe they'll flip, but I don't see that happening. There's no like,
even if Teeny flips, right? Rachel has to use her steal a vote or her block a vote. Sorry. It's actually important that it's a block vote, not a steal vote, for the numbers. Because if Teeny flips, it could still be 3-2 against one of Sue or Rachel. The issue is that both Sue and Rachel also have idols.
Yeah.
And it would be very hard pressed to trick them into not playing the idols. Like if they did it here, like it seems like Sue obviously didn't play her idol for Caroline, even though she knew that Caroline was probably going to get at least 2 votes. And it seems like obviously we don't know for sure. It seems like if Rachel hadn't won immunity and somebody like, Andy or Teeny or somebody had won instead, it seems like Rachel would have gone home with both the idol and advantage in her pocket. So it's, I guess, theoretically possible, but it's going to be a lot harder to pull this off back to back.
Yeah, if this had gone through on Rachel and they were able to pull it exactly the same way off, Rachel still doesn't play anything, even though Rachel doesn't have the necklace, potentially lulling her into a false sense of security. This is going down as one of the greatest moves of all time. Yeah. Like, in my opinion.
Do you think she plays her idol, or
I think it's so like hard to say what would have happened without, because I think with the immunity necklace, like if I'm trying to put myself in Rachel's mindset, it's like, well, they get Caroline, okay, that's fine. Like I'll be okay. I have enough in my bag of tricks to call back to Tony again to, weather that storm.
Sue doesn't even remember her name. She called her like what's her face or whatever she said. Professional.
Yeah. I do love that Sue is still saying Tweedledee and Tweedledum it's like these are like characters that are like known. I don't know, like you've never heard of Tweedledee and Tweedledum ever?
I know I've said recently that Sue deserves some credit, but I think that's the only relevance she's had to her game at all is being infatuated with hating Kyle. Mm-hmm. I think we might look back that Sue being one of the weaker. If she makes Final Tribal, I think we will look back at her being one of the weaker players to make Final Tribal, the Final 3. Maybe in the new era.
There's a lot of competition in the new era, though.
But at least some
players that made
some people that have seemingly had like a read of the game. Sue has no read of this game at all. She's been sitting on an idol for how many votes now? Like she could have saved Gabe if she wanted to. She totally could have saved Carolyn here if she wanted to. It's just like literally just Sue is a mouth to feed on that island at this point.
Yeah, I think you're right in that she just clearly doesn't have good reads on what's happening. She just keeps like getting surprised by everything, and that's like not a winning game in any way. You can't be like, oh, it's bad that she's not like omniscient, but also the good players in this game are the people who are like something is off about this vibe, and I'm gonna like act on that, you know.
Yeah.
Also, how is she so dirty all the time? I don't
She's the last one left
I-
of her
I
tribe.
hate
Though.
Yeah,
I
she
hate
left
it.
one
It's
left.
like-
Sister.
She's getting locked in the coal mine down.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
understand what's happening.
I saw on Carolyn in an interview I saw with Mike Bloom, and on that she said that like Sue would be the one constantly tending the fire and like, getting soot in her hands and then rubbing her hands all over her face, and then it would get like basically like embedded into her skin because it would sit there for so long. And like I guess that makes sense. Like I think soot, like it sticks longer on your skin than like dirt, for instance. Like a lot harder to wash off.
I don't know. I think if I'm going in that ocean, I'm getting the soot off.
Yeah, I
She
was
looks like
say
she's
though,
she looks like she's taking the coal from the fire and like just rubbing it on her eyes.
Yeah.
She's
Like,
she's a
like
linebacker.
eye black, like she's actually the quarterback. Teeny should be pissed off at her if anything.
No, exactly. I think you're right though, Dylan. Like if I'm playing Survivor and I'm also on a beach in Fiji, I'm going in the water like all the time. I don't know. Like she's not, and plus, like I imagine you just feel so gross on Survivor all the time. Like I'd be desperate to try to feel not disgusting. You feel good for the 5 minutes until the salt water evaporates and leaves like the salt on your skin. You can never really get clean on Survivor.
I mean, I feel gross when I do like anything remotely physical for a day. Like,
Right.
I can't imagine like, living for 3.5 weeks or whatever it is without showering and
same underwear for 3 weeks.
Oh,
God.
It's nasty.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, yeah. Anything else on this one that we wanted to touch on? It's crazy because it's like I feel like if Rachel goes, where this podcast is like 2 hours long as we break down every possible scenario. But since Rachel stayed, it's like, well, the end game seems pretty clear. So what else is there to say?
I'm gonna lock in my guess for the final tribal here now. I'm gonna assume how many people are voting. Right? Do we get
next
10?
week 5?
Oh, you mean on jury?
5.
It's
jury.
8.
8.
Yeah, jury of 8. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume it's Rachel, Teeny, Sue. Rachel gets 6. Teeny gets 2. Sue gets 0. Although Carolyn being there, like, she's gonna get
for sure.
I think Saul votes Teeny.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Because I'm Saul, I'm pissed. I'm pissed at Rachel. I threw you a lifeline.
I agree. I think Saul votes Teeny, Carolyn votes Sue. I guess probably 6-1-1.
I hate that Sue's gonna get a vote. I hate it, especially because Carolyn was a no vote finalist. I hate it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who else. Like I yeah, I think everybody else probably votes for Rachel. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2-part finale. That'll be interesting to see why it's being called a 2-part finale and not just an extra episode of Survivor. Don't know if it's just a branding thing or there is something there. Just please don't end the episode before a vote. Jeff, please, whatever you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting, like I said before, I expect a cliffhanger of some sort, whether it's a cliffhanger headed into a fire-making challenge or like a cliffhanger at the final 5 vote or something like that. I don't know.
I think you put it in my head. I think it's going to be a cliffhanger when fire challenge starting, or something like the flag goes up at the same time during the fire challenge, or the cliffhanger is there is no fire and we're going to vote. I'm locking in. That's my guess, and that's when it goes to credits.
Jeff would never do something as kind as that.
I think maybe he's in a given mood this year.
Yeah, it's the Christmas. He has the Christmas spirit out there in Fiji in May.
Maybe when he realizes that this island advantage, the show just kind of like handed out like candy to Rachel, is going to end up with the 3 people who just pulled off this move likely going out in 6-5-4, and maybe Jeff will reevaluate, injecting the game with a bunch of idols and advantages for no reason.
It just seems so like I feel like we haven't had a season where like an advantage or idol like that was so shoehorned in this late in the game too.
Yeah, I mean the block vote. Yeah, the block vote felt like they saw it turning into a Pagong and were like, quick, add another advantage in there, and then it just ended up happening that the person in the majority, the one person in the majority alliance, ended up getting it, and it's going to probably upset the only potential, interesting flip that could have happened.
Yeah, I really wish that his podcast partners or anybody would just pin Jeff down in any of these interviews and be like, do you understand what these advantages do to the television product? Are you like aware that you're not adding things, you're taking away people's agency and giving people less choices and making a less interesting product? I need to hear him defend this, and I know he'd give like one of his non-answers of like, it's all about the possibilities and the choices. The choices are still there. They still apply. It's like, no, this is not accurate, Jeff. This is not what is happening in practice. Maybe when you draw it up in the on the board before the season, you think these will add stuff, but it's taking stuff away. And the reason why people love this episode is because it was about people playing around advantages or using those advantages to make like a interesting vote. It wasn't the advantage overpowering a vote,
I got a feeling that Jeff has, at this point in his career, and maybe rightfully so, has surrounded himself with just a lot of yes men and women, which is, whatever. Yeah, it's whatever. I do think the people behind the scenes deserve a lot of credit for the production of the season.
Oh yeah,
the production of the season has been lights out. I think like even more so than other seasons. I think like the editing has been great. I think the cinematography a lot of the times has been really good. I think the way that they've cut that trailer for next week was sick. Genevieve and Rachel kind of standing off like they were two gunslingers in the Old West. That was cool.
Yeah, that's great.
I think behind the scenes production has done actually a really good job with this season. And it's like, it's very easy to call out when editing was shit in 41, which it was. But I imagine Jeff also has a lot of control over edit, so that I feel like that's more on him. But like the actual production of this season has been very, very good.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've maybe talked about a bunch of examples throughout the season of like way like creative editing techniques and like kind of new things that they've been trying. Even in this episode, like the way they kind of edited the Project Italy, which I don't know why they just didn't call it the Italian job. Maybe it's a copyright thing, But,
I bet it was where like, wasn't it on Big Brother? We see this happen a lot where it's like, oh, you can't actually name your lines that because it's a copywritten thing, So I bet it was something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, the way they edited it, where like they did like these split screen things and stuff like that, it was very cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dylan, anything you want to promote before we get on out of here?
The same as usual, DJ Clubberlang on whatever you find me on. I'm gotten pretty close to securing it. Still haven't done Blue Sky though. So
yeah, come on, get on there.
I don't know. I am getting. I will do it, but it's the same thing. Like when people start joining threads, I don't. Sometimes I just don't like change, so I'll just I'll ride.
Threads kind of sucked. So
yeah.
I'll ride on the anti-Semitic ship that is the X at the moment. So it's brutal there. I'm like watching CEOs get shot in the back on there. It's it's the old. I'm like it's like Mad Max. I'm just like, you can get me out. I'm like, I'm just in this world now. That's all I know. So I will create a Blue Sky though, just because like I said, I want to lock down that handle in the case Blue Sky does eventually pop off and get big. So yeah, there, Twitch, TikTok. I mean, like whenever I get bored, I'll just find like a TikTok template and like do something stupid on it. So yeah, follow me there. But I am then follow our Trader show. I'm sneaky, very excited for Traders because it sneaks right in. We're gonna be able to watch it right before like March Madness. Like it'll blend in with like the Super Bowl, and then we got March Madness after that. But then then we get the next season of Survivor. It's like I think that's gonna be fun, and I'm excited to watch like a new show. I'm not gonna watch the first 2 seasons. But I'm gonna dive into that.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm watching season 1 right now. I watched season 2 live, so I've seen season 2. I know who wins season 1, so like I'm going in pre-spoiled. I know like some spoilers about it beyond that, so I'm not going in fresh on season 1, but like, it was pretty impossible for me not to get spoiled on.
I feel like if you have the ability to pull in like Jeremy and Tony and Boston Rob, like two, I would say at least two, especially specifically in the Survivor community. Tony and Boston Rob are obviously up there for like of like potentially Mount Rushmore of players, but obviously Jeremy is my favorite player of all time. But I wouldn't put up Jeremy in the Mount Rushmore of players, but to be able to pull in them is. I feel like the show has got. They know the show's got to be doing something right, because I don't think any of them really need like a paycheck, like specifically Boston Rob either. So I have high hopes for that. I think it's gonna be really good, especially going in blind too. My wife and I are both going in blind. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and they also already got in like Sandra and Parv last season, who are also arguably the other two people you would probably have on your Mount Rushmore. So they've knocked it out of the park with
another 2-time winner who probably doesn't need the money. Who knows these days in this economy? Am I right, Eggs?
Right.
But I have really high hopes, and if it sucks, it sucks. But I think I'm looking forward. It'll be fun.
I don't see how it could suck, to be honest. Because even like the Bravo stars, who I never know, like I'm always like, these people are great. Like they're great TV. They always bring it super hard.
I love how one is just Zac Efron's brother.
Yeah, it's just Zac Efron's brother also is going to be there.
It's very like Surreal Life. It's very like Britney's ex-lover, or whatever it is.
Need Liam's stand-up career to take off so I can get stunt casts on the Traitors. or what's that other one where it's like all about famous relatives?
Claim to Fame.
Also,
Claim to Fame. Yeah.
First off, don't sell yourself short. Liam will be getting on there because you'll be number one.
Right. Yeah.
Brother of number one Survivor podcast.
Yeah. Or number one Traitors podcast. Who knows? Yeah, no, I think it's great. For me, I love it because it like really showcases the social element of these social strategy games more than, like the other games where it's like sometimes the advantages, challenges stuff can derail players. And I think like the first 2 seasons showed that a lot. I haven't seen the new or the big the Canada version of it. It's not on Peacock from what I saw, but I did see who won.
Yeah, I thought we won season 2. I really want to watch
figured,
now.
Yeah, I figured that person would do well given their performance on their previous show. So I think it really does.
I'm also a big fan. So
yeah, it really does bear out that like if you're like one of those savvy social players, the Traitors is like your show. I'm
also a big fan of the host. Alan Cumming.
Alan is so fucking good as the host.
Floop from Spy Kids. I remember that. But he was also in a great sci-fi
from X-Men.
Nightcrawler, yeah, that is true. I completely forgot about that. He was in a great sci-fi miniseries called Tin Man. It was like a spin on Wizard of Oz. It's sneaky a stacked cast, but it was like a dark, like twisted version of Wizard of Oz, and he was Scarecrow. It was very, very good.
I have to check that out.
Zoe,
I saw Wicked, so now I'm in the mindset. Yeah,
I plan on seeing Wicked during Christmas break. Zoe Deschanel is Dorothy, so that's another. Big
one. Yeah, it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, right?
Yeah, and it was Fringe, like a horror show, and like Tin Man was like just this like sheriff that was locked in like this tin like cage and forced to watch his family get killed. It was dark, man. It was a good show.
That's crazy. But I'm so excited for the Traitors as well. We got new stuff coming out all the time on Wicked Good Everything, this channel, Better Radio, Wicked Good Sports, and only gonna have more as schedule frees up. We're gonna hopefully get to stream more. I know we say that every time. We haven't yet, but soon enough. New video on the main channel talking about X Defiant getting shut down after less than a year. Not great, but please go check it out. The video's fine. It's not great that X Defiant got shut down so soon. So please check that out.
Rip.
I appreciate it. Ben, anything you want to plug?
No, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm not on Twitter, so don't get fooled by the bird.
Yeah. This is just a template that we can't.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's
not worth changing.
Yeah.
It is blue, and birds do go in the sky. I think people will know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Twitter, Blue Sky just has the Twitter colors that Twitter abandoned when it switched to X in favor of black and white instead of blue and white. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one for the first part of the finale, whatever that means.
Part 1, 2-episode finale of a reality TV show.